It is not somebody else telling you. You got to be thirsty within, not somebody else giving you a glass of water. So it's the thirst within which makes you win. No amount of water around you makes you win if you're not thirsty. So you got to be thirsty to win, thirsty to succeed. It's thirsty to be successful. That's the point.
So do you think that all the achievers, they tend to set goals that most people would consider unrealistic?
No, they set realistic goals for themselves, but they keep raising the bar. They keep competing with themselves. Those people who you think have succeeded are those who've succeeded with themselves. They've not competed with others. They compete within themselves. They set their own goals, they set their own bars, they reward themselves, they punish themselves. They set their own standards. So they actually first compete with themselves. Nobody else sets the goals for them. They internalize the goals. They internalize their own vision. They implement their own vision. They have their own dream. They walk their own dream. It's all they themselves. It's their own mind. That's what's provoked this answer is your right question. It's all in their own mind. But how it comes in their own mind can be various sources. But once it comes in their own mind, that it is then their own mind which propels them for proactivity, for action.
So basically what this means is that in order to succeed, the initial thing is that we need to have a burning desire to succeed.
Absolutely. It has to be within you. It cannot be acquired. You may have got inspired, attracted from within, but the inspiration is within. You may have got externally motivated, but that has to become internal inspiration. So you have to sleep with it. You have to get up with it. You have to walk it. You got to live it. You got to speak it. You write it. You got to do it. But nobody else tells you to do it. In fact, these doers don't need to be told ever. None of these doers have ever been told. They just do themselves. And that's why they become examples for others. Honestly speaking, I've never been given goals by my bosses. I've never been told by my boss what to do. I do it myself. I set my own goals. And then my boss joins me in seeing whether he can pitch in. And if he pitches in, he's a good boss. If he doesn't pitch in, he's not a good boss. But there's never been a boss in my career of 35 years of policing where my boss told me, Kiran, you haven't done this, you must do this. On the contrary, my good bosses have only called me to ask me, how did you do it? What do you want to do ahead? The person who asks me, what do you want to do ahead, is a good boss for me. And a boss who doesn't ask me this question is not a good boss for me. So I am actually my own boss. I become my own supervisor. What must I do on my own as per my needs of the organization, the current and the future, and correct the past. I've never had a boss which tells me these are the wrongs which you correct. Why must my boss tell me what's wrong with the past? Why must I not know it? And why must I not be doing it myself? And since I am correcting the past, I am thinking the future. I'm the best person who knows what needs to be done ahead. So all I need is sharing of that vision and contribution of a higher level of thinking from my boss. If I get it, he's my boss. If he doesn't get it, he's my boss in position, but he's not my boss in mind.
So what you're saying is that in order to have a high degree of conscientiousness, the important thing is the desire should come from within and not come from outside.
Absolutely. As long as the desire is not within you, whatever external environment and incentives you may create, they'll be all very short-lived. The passion has to come from within. That's why it's called having your passion within. The inspiration is always internal.
Now, one question I would like to ask you is, how did that burning desire come within you?
That's a good question. I think that's the awareness that sometimes it's a gift. Sometimes it's an awareness. Sometimes it's an ignition. Sometimes it's an incitement. Sometimes you just awake. I got it. Sometimes it's something triggers. So when is the trigger? The match and that thing, when does it trigger? You got the right thing, but they both are lying independently till they trigger. So when does that trigger is, I think, the key. And somewhere it begins unconsciously, unknowingly. And somewhere it begins by, you're in a discourse, you meet a teacher, you meet a man, you shake hands, you come across a good book, you dream, you have a conversation with your parent, your mother, father, your brother, your environment, somebody instigates you. You've seen cricket matches, somebody played mind games only to shake himself up and to make a century, and the other's getting a zero, he hits a century. It's a mind, he's triggering himself, he's charging himself. I think it can happen. So, well, you can consciously invoke it too. Sometimes you can trigger yourself. Sometimes get into a situation where you are getting humiliated, only to shame yourself, saying, why couldn't you do it? Sometimes you run a race desperately to come last, only to say, why couldn't I be with? Sometimes you attend a prize competition only to look at that trophy, saying, why couldn't I win the trophy? So sometimes you go and recharge yourself. But that's the key, is it can happen at any time. But the key is, start searching for it. If you want it, search it. So that means again, where does the want come? Because the search will begin only if you want it. So that another means is make yourself thirsty for what you want. That means just ask yourself and search yourself, what do you want? But then why should I ask what I want if I don't want anything? That's fine. I'm happy if I don't want anything. That's another way of living, is I'm happy the way I am. Right? But if I am not happy with the way I want, I'm not happy with the way I am, then I think your next question is, what do I want? When that question, what do I want, can be the trigger. That's the journey of the want.
Just wait a minute. Okay. You mentioned that the importance of burning desire to succeed. What happens is a lot of people have a desire in the beginning, but some way down the line they lose steam. How do you prevent that from happening?
Well, if this person is feeling fulfilled, fine. It's whichever level of fulfillment you get. It's not that everybody must be at the Mount Everest. Some have a desire to climb 10 hills, some have a desire to climb 20 hills, and somebody want to still make the top. But if you really want to be only at the peak, that means if you really desire and you have a burning desire for that, then a whole strategy comes out. That means it's much harder sacrifice. That means harder the focus, harder the determination, harder the willpower, harder the effort, because you want to go higher. So that means you've got to raise all these levels, the willpower, the determination, the focus, the sacrifice, the choices. So it's a question of where one gets satisfied. Maybe that's where I wanted to be. I think the key is, where is your happiness level? If you reach that happiness level, you're successful. But if you're not happy with that level, that's the time you need to question yourself, then what do I do to change this situation? To my mind, all of them who are at the Everest are not really the best. Anybody who reaches their own level of Everest, I think, and they're happy with it and they're contented with it, be it. But if they feel jealous about somebody else and they feel disenchanted with it, that's the time they then ask themselves, why be discontented? Why be disenchanted? Why don't I change my situation? And then what do I do with it? And then what's my peak? Oh, my peak is next peak. Then for that, I need to shed 5 pounds. I need to get the right weight. I need to go to a trainer. I need to have the right shoes. And I have to be up in the morning. And then I have to love what I'm doing. If that person continues to love that goal, then he'll never need any goading. I think so. It's your inner search. Always inner search. And each one of us develops our own plateaus. If happy with that plateau, excellent. Change the plateau. If not, but change how I told you.
So, ma'am, basically, if you really want to achieve something, you have to stay hungry all the time.
Yes, I think it's a question of being hungry all the time. But I want to link hunger with joy and not hunger with anger, hunger with greed. It's not hunger with happiness and not hunger with greed. Hunger with share, not hunger with pain. If you're hungry, but hungry to beat others, to spite others, then I don't think you're getting the joy out of that hunger. Hunger should be for satisfaction, for good health. Hunger should not be for over indigestion.
So you joined IPS at a time when it was considered basically a man's domain.
It was totally.
It was totally a man's domain. And do you think the challenge of succeeding in a field that no lady had ever entered also a driving factor in your success to get to the top in a field that no lady had even thought?
I didn't even know when I joined the Indian Police Service that there were no women. I didn't know. I didn't join to be the first. It's only after I joined I was told you the first. But it was a very clear choice and I was confident with that choice. I had never any doubts about my choice. I knew I'd make it great because I had all the ingredients to make that. I had the mental tenacity, I had the physical endurance, which had all come from my tennis matches. And this service needs a lot of mental stamina and physical stamina and a lot of willpower and determination and a lot of self-respect and self-confidence and self-belief. I had that. So I didn't care what, I was very sure that I would make it here. This is my domain. And I had the passion here, I had the heart here, and the willingness to serve, because this service always stood for me for larger service. It meant for me very, very large service. And it also meant for me instant service. That's why I was always giving instant results, instant service, instant correction. That is what it always meant for me. So I was never in doubt. And not the question of doubt never appeared. I was just raring to go.
So ma'am, basically, this means that as long as you believe something 100%, you can achieve it.
And give it 100%. Believe in 100% and give it 100%. You will get 100%. But giving it all 100% is all the time evaluating, are you really giving it 100%? But the law of nature is, you give it 100%, you get it 100%, but that 100% is not the donkey 100%. It's an intelligent 100%. Poor donkey remains a donkey even after giving it 100%. So it's an intelligent 100%. It's a mature 100%. It's a thinking 100%. It's a wise 100%.
What role did goal setting play in your life?
Well, sorry? Goals?
What goal setting?
It makes you time manage better. It prioritizes you better. It prevents deviations. Rules out distractions. So goal setting is important. It keeps the journey on track. You know, you don't lose your way. So goal setting helps from that point of view, is that it gives you destinations. For me, goal setting could be a destination, but that destination is to set another goal. But you need to have your roadmap. So goal helps you design the roadmap and not lose your way.
So we should basically live our goal. We have to keep it in front of us all the time.
Yes, if you want to have a goal and you want to achieve the goal, then keep the roadmap correct and journey on the right kind of highway. So choose the right highway and avoid any distractions which come the way. It all depends how soon you want to reach your goal. So if you put in a time frame, then the shortest cut, the surest cut, and the safest cut is important. And right track, right road, right journey is so important, and right methodology is important. See, that road journey involves so many things: right speed, right fuel, right whether you want to do it alone or right companionship. All that matters. See, all these other parameters then makes the journey achievable and enjoyable.
So all these like when we have goals, do you think we should constantly visualize them?
Well, they stay with you. You don't have to make an effort to let me visualize it. They stay with you. The goal is internalized, so you're living it. You're truly living it. But it's a good idea to visualize it at times. It's a good idea. It's a nice to picture that goal. It makes you, it internally probably refreshes. It's like a refresh on the computer. You refresh it. It's a good area, good thing to refresh your that image of the goal. It's a good idea.
So basically, I want to ask something metaphysical over here. Do you think that we tend to attract what we think about the most?
Yes, we do. That's right. It's happened many times, all the time in my life. I attract all that I need, all that I genuinely want. It attracts me completely. It happened in my, it's happened in all my police and public prison career. Whatever I've really needed it, I've had somebody knocking at the door saying, "Could we pitch in?" And I am amazed. What's this? It is a pull. There is something called magical, spiritual magic in this. It's called the law of connectivity or synchronicity. This happens. I've had all my needs in the policing where I was short of, met by people, by goodwill, whenever I asked for. They pitched in. Only when it was just like wishing that I had this. And within the same environment it came, saying, somehow the environment came, and I found the answer. So whether my thought came first or the answer came first, I do not know. Whether they were both there and what connected it, even I do not know. But yes, there was an inner urge and inner desire, but it was never selfish. It was never selfish. It always had the larger interest and the hidden good behind it. It was never for a personal, me only as an individual. It was meant for work, for the largest good. That's why it was always answered.
So basically what can be said is that whatever we pursue with an obsession and persist no matter how many setbacks we face, that must come to happen sooner or later.
I have never believed in making anything an obsession. Short of obsession, because that's madness. I don't want to get because you don't live for that. Life is very versatile, right? So I have never made anything as an obsession, so that there is an element of flexibility and adaptability. I believed in flexibility and adaptability and an element of detachment and moving on. Having done Vipassana meditation course, nothing becomes an obsession because change is the law. Growth is optional. Choose wisely. That's what I follow always. So once you've done a Vipassana meditation course, nothing is an obsession because change is the law. Therefore, adaptability and flexibility without compromising on your effort. So it's right effort, maximum effort. And also the Gita philosophy. You do what you must. Leave the results to happen, as Lord Krishna said. I again believe in that because I've seen this happen again and again. So, but the effort should not be compromised or minimized. So I think if these two things one starts believing in is right effort, right amount of effort, without an obsession for result, and believing in the change is the law and growth is optional, you just have to continue to choose wisely. So I do know everything, what is today is not going to be there tomorrow. It's going to be modified. So be ready for the modification, be ready for the change, but continue with the effort. Continue your internal inspiration. Be happy in what you do and spread happiness around you. But if you're unhappy with something, make an effort to change it. But then don't spread unhappiness around it. That's your personal matter. So that's what I believe in. Therefore, and with the knowing that nothing is static, and nothing is always going to be according to my needs and chemistry. I may have to veer my way around.
So spirituality has definitely played a lot of role in your success.
Yes.
I had to ask you something. Are there any books that have inspired you?
Many. I've been an English honors student from my college days. So I read very good literature, poetry, novels, prose, fiction, non-fiction. As a student, it was all course books, but they were all solid, good course books. You see, they all continue to settle. And then came to my personal reading, and my personal reading all became something which continued to inspire me, something which was daring, something which was courageous, something had sacrifice element, something which had giving element. Then I moved a lot to spiritual books. And so it's moved from literature to spiritual reading. And now spiritual reading and management books, leadership books. So it's continued to wear philosophy books. So, but I'm not into heavy theory. I'm not into heavy non-fiction at all, fiction. Theory and fiction are now little on the margins, completely running. And what has come center stage is leadership, management, spirituality, transformation, discourses, audiobooks, video discourses on the television. So this now attracts me. Eye to eye, personal discourses, bhajans. Now this is center stage. They attract me. Fiction doesn't attract me anymore. Something which is not in the real world, it doesn't attract me anymore. What attracts me is the real world now, the day in and day out. So it's not an imaginary world anymore. It's a real world which attracts me. Though fiction gives you lots of interesting ideas, but that's my world which I have now moved into closely, which attracts. That's why programs in meditation, discourses, spiritual books, if I get a gift, I open up and it's a spiritual book. If I it's an audio spiritual book or an audio discourse. These are or if I'm into a school, Ma Saraswati's idol. So I see that, or another Ganesh, or a Gita. So amazing. This is what is attracting me, but this is what I get again. And my house is full of spiritual books and audio books and videotapes of these kinds. It's amazing how it continued. It came on its own.
One of your most visible traits is your incredible self-confidence. How can someone who doesn't have that kind of self-confidence create that kind of self-confidence?
By doing. And the earlier you start doing, means doing. If you start doing it at the college, school level, well, you got to be gifted. If your parents are the right, then you're gifted. If your parents are giving you are creating an enabling environment of you doing, deciding and doing, and they're there to see wherever there's any course correction, they guide you. I think what better opportunity and a gift of God. I had that gift. My father and mother would continue to steer while they allowed me to drive my life. They were there very carefully making these boundaries of the road so that I stay on the highway while they are there without saying there's a boundary. But they were like invisible boundary, which I knew they were there. So I stayed within the boundary, in the sense they were norms which I worked with. But they allowed me to drive my life. Play, compete, win, lose. But they were there to analyze and share and inspire. But that was instilling into me. They were never making me dependent on them for decision making. The training was such that I decide. So even if they're subtly suggesting, it was I decide. So it was by doing. So they allowed me to do. If you get a family like that, that means you're gifted. Then don't depend on crutches. Take in as much as you can. That means it's a golden period of your life. After that, then you can walk on your own legs and give and be a crutch to many, many others all your life. So if you start early, and if you're born into this family, or if you're born into a school or a college which is enabling you, that means you're blessed. Take in as much as you can. Or if you feel that every time you take 2 steps forward as a child or a student, and there's somebody to pull you back, become aware, conscious that this is a negative pull, and that's a positive step. Become conscious and break away from it as soon as you can. Understand it and try and not hold you back from those 2 steps. So start doing 3 steps into one. That means you're still 2 steps. So it's becoming conscious of your environment around you and what's working for you and what's not working for you. And then with the goal and the vision, keep walking that track. Sometimes the speed could be slower, as I said. Sometimes certain circumstances are not in your hands. It doesn't matter, accept that slow speed, but wait for the change of the gear the moment you can. Don't give up. Never give up. But continue to be happy all along. Be happy and contented all along. I believe in contentment and happiness are not contradictory. You can be contented and yet be happy and progress. See, contented, happiness and progress can be running in tandem. Contentment and progress, you contented and progress doesn't stop. You keep progressing, but you contented with what you have achieved, but you want to progress further. So you contented with your progress, but the progress need not be contented. Progress can continue to move.
the average person's sense of self-worth is dictated by outsiders. So when people appreciate you, when people appreciate a person in general, they become happy, they gain self-confidence. When people do not appreciate them, they lose self-confidence. How can someone have that sustained level of self-confidence that really does not bother about others' criticism?
It's again your self-belief. If you believe that what you're doing is the right thing to do, and if your inner side is appreciating you, then you're right. Then you're right. Then face the hostility as you can, with the maturity you can, without becoming part of that hostility. So it's a lot of self-training. This is where spiritual training will help. This comes in the realm of spiritual response. So the more you self-train spiritually, the better qualitatively will be this response. That's where spiritual training is critical also. And spiritual training, if it begins at an early age, it need not be post-retirement. If it comes along with your education in school and college, it will make you a better human being in your responses. So, उसके कहते हैं ना, अच्छा करता जा, ये मत चिंता कर, वो भी मगर किसी को दिया और भूल जा. I think that's the way. दिया और भूल जा. दे के ये नहीं कर, मुझे बता तू मुझे क्या देगा. Then you're only worried about give transaction. दिया और भूल जा. Move on. And फिर दिया और भूल जा. Move on. वो जिसको दे गए, वो कहेगा, वो दे गया, रुका भी नहीं मेरे थैंक यू करने के लिए. कोई बात नहीं, वो मेरे लिए ज़रूरी नहीं था. My joy was in giving you. My joy was not getting an acknowledgement of what I've given you. So once that's spiritual, is rising above. So I think rising above pettiness, rising above hostility, rising above people which hold you back, rising above normal negative human emotions in the environment, rising above is what keeps you above. You've got to constantly rise above pettiness.
Ma'am, I would now like to allow Sheila to start to take the questions. Before that, I actually have to take the questions that I've already asked because she would like to see.
She was listening.
She was listening, but she would like me that.
और भी इसलिए अच्छा क्लैरिटी से कर रही हूँ क्योंकि मैं उनसे इंटरेक्ट कर रही हूँ, आई कांटेक्ट है. तो आप अपने कैमरे को चेंज करो.
Ma'am, you mentioned about the desire of having, to get something in your life. That burning desire should always be there. I would like to ask that how that burning desire has actually helped you to, traverse such a long path when you initially started and today you have such a meteoric rise in your life. How that burning desire has actually, helped you.
You see, when I was growing up, I hated being ordinary.
Okay.
I disliked being ordinary because I looked at the ordinary woman's life then and I found it was hell. It was drudgery. So when I hated that, I had to do something dramatically maximum to get out of that hate, you see. So the city in which I was living, which is Amritsar, I saw the best of the worst. I saw women being married by heavy dowry. I saw women being domesticated and suffering as mothers and with lots of children and not able to leave home because they were now dependent. I hated dependence. I saw the consequences of dependence. I saw the consequences of economic dependence, psychological dependence, and mental dependence. I saw the consequences of a woman's dependence on anybody else. Anybody else. And that's where it was like maybe it was an 8-year-old or a 9-year-old I'd seen this. And I saw that, but my parents made me conscious of it. That's where the trigger was. While I'm seeing it with my ears, who's analyzing it for me in my mind? That's where in the message coming in, that's dependence. And why is that dependence? Somebody's explaining it to me, or my mother or my father, because she's economically dependent. Why? Because she hasn't educated herself. Or she wasn't educated. Or she didn't use her education. It could be any. So she was sent to the best, but she didn't use it. I said, so if you don't use it, this has a consequence. If you don't get it, this has a consequence. Right? And So once I realized that this dependence is a lifelong issue, I'm never going to fall into this trap. So it was a total determination. Then I looked at, hey, I'm getting all the opportunity to be away from this. I'm playing tennis, I'm competing, I'm traveling, I'm studying, I'm the best school, I've got parents who love me. Then what is my role? Is just to value this to the maximum. So therefore, I put in my heart and soul into anything I got. Any opportunity I got, it became an attitude to value whatever I got. It's an attitude of value. That's why I value whatever I get. And I create lots out of whatever I get. I get nothing sometimes in my department. But I value that and I create. Like Tihar jail, I had nothing. But I had human beings, 10,000. So 10,000 human beings with no budget to educate them, no budget to reform them. Reform was never a part of the policy. But I didn't look at the budget which had nothing. I looked at 10 human beings who had 24 hours of the day, each person 10,000. So I multiplied 24 hours, 24 into 10,000 10,000 people into 24 hours. That's my wealth. But what do I do? Now, I got my hands, I got my senses. Now, what do I start to communicate with them. So that was the beginning of education. I don't need budget for that. I don't need books for that. I don't need a blackboard. All I need is a mic. I had a microphone. So I started to speak to prisoners daily and explaining to them how life can be better for them. Till, as I told you, the example of synchronicity, there were people knocking at the door, and now the media started to report that there is winds of change in Tihar jail, winds of change. Now, when people read that, can we come and educate? Can we teach yoga? Can we come and give spiritual discourses? All of them started to come one by one. And I started to wonder, I was beginning a process of dialogue to start a process of change, and here are the tools and saying, can we come and pitch in? Imagine. So it was out of that habit which I earned at that is to value whatever I have. Value what, and in government, wherever you go, you do not have it all. And that's why either we get up doing nothing, or the rules are so flexible that the sky is the limit. So therefore, that's how sky is the limit became my task, wherever I got with nothing. Similarly, in a crime prevention area, when I was doing a district charge, I had very few men, policemen. But I had such a large district. I had 116 villages, all dacoity prone. How do I prevent dacoity? I have only 4 constables for night patrolling, 4 out of for every night, 116 villages. What do? I created able-bodied men out of each village to patrol for themselves at night, and I sprinkled these 4 men as a surprise. God knows where is one man. So the robbers and dacoits wondered, where will these 4 men be? They got a rifle. So I told these 4 men, you will fire in the air so that the dacoit does not know where is the fire coming from. So we would fire in the air at night, fire a very light pistol. The dacoit does. So we hoodwinked. But 4 men positioned by surprise, with each village giving me 10 able-bodied men, but not left them. Then every night I was on a night round to greet them, to meet them. 5 nights a week I was out on a night round. I had that energy at that time to pitch in. That's the time when you must realize what is your strength. You had age on your side, you had strength on your side, you had stamina on your side, you had the determination on your side, and the goal was crime-free. Believe me, it worked. So that was the answer, long and very long answer to your basic question is, where do you get it from? That you get it very early, when you start valuing what you have and hate what you don't want. I hate being enslaved. I love independence. I have great self-respect. And therefore, in my work, I set my own goals. That's why lots others get left behind, because they've not valued what they had. They let time run out, or they wait for things to happen. I don't wait for things to happen. I make things happen.
Ma'am, my next question would be to you that what is the basic difference between wishing for something and desiring for something?
Well, you can wish for something. Wish can be very surface, but desire is very internal fire. Desire is a light which burns within you. Wish could be a A wish could be something like a birthday candle which you blow. So you just blow, that's a wish. But something which is constantly within you, which is lighting you, is that desire and the burning torch inside, which drives you, which propels you to take a decision, take a call. That's the burning desire inside you.
And what is the importance of, making firm decisions in your life?
What is the
importance of
importance?
making, firm decisions?
Or to be in charge. If you don't take your own decisions, then somebody else will take decisions for you. To be in control, to be in command, to be in charge. Otherwise, somebody else will decide. Or somebody else will hand down a decision to you. Again, that fire to be independent. Fire to be self-dependent. I love interdependence, but dependence interdependence. But not dependence. It's interdependence based on dependence. I'm not a selfish person. Dependence is not being selfish. It's interdependence. It's inter-self-dependence. If you start working on that, then you don't wait for decisions to happen. You start taking decisions. And, the whole basis of all this is not being selfish, but being ethical, being larger good, is a spirit of giving.
And then the decision that you made in the Tihar jail, that as you mentioned about, was there a very firm decision in your life, like you banned smoking there, people tried, that they were on strike and they wanted to commit suicide. So does this really depict that, yes, you had actually made a firm decision in your life? What would you like to say about it?
Because I did believe that it was the largest good. Somebody has to bite the bullet. And I had the capacity to bite the bullet. So bite it when you know you can and chew it. And so I had the confidence that I was going to succeed in it. It wasn't a failure risk. It was a success risk. That's why I succeeded, because I treaded very carefully. But there is no decision when you want to really jump the scale without a risk. But then it has to be it was not a blind alley. It was a calculated risk, but I agree, it was a big risk to ban smoking inside the prison, and particularly with the convicts for whom that was their home, and smoking a bidi was something like, a journey. Smoking a cigarette was like freedom of their mind. Smoking a cigarette was like a companion they would treasure to be with. I know, this is what they told me. But then I wanted to ground them to understand that you're living in a world of smoke, which is actually eating you up, but in the process, spreading the disease around you. And I had to keep the larger good in mind. So that's how it was it was a tough decision. And its decision not been reversed. It's been so many years, nobody could reverse the decision. And it's done, I don't know how many thousands and thousands of people have got prevented for tuberculosis from this, because this is nothing but a way to tuberculosis. Because it spreads then in the congested areas when they spit around, and if somebody's got asthma or something like that and smokes on it, it gets worse. And it's fatal too, but it also spreads. So I don't know how many crores of rupees we must have saved in healthcare by bringing in this healthy practice.
And then what would you like to say about those people who actually take too long to make a decision, but then they change it very often?
They drift in life. इधर थप्पड़ मारा, इधर भी मारा, मटा लिया, इधर भी मटा लिया, फिर किसी ने मारा, अरे थप्पड़ मारा तो क्या हो गया? They drift along. They just drift along in life. That's their way of life. They're happy even with that. If they're happy with that and they're not conscious of it, and they're happy with the drift, well, world has to be made up of all kinds of people. You need drifters along, don't you? But these are those people, पता ही नहीं कि थप्पड़ भी मारा किसी ने किधर से मार दिया, किधर से मारा, अरे यही है, जीना ही तो है. These are all thoughts we live with. Some says no, some reject it, some accept it, some go along with it. I think we all have all kinds of people, and those are drifters.
And please tell me the importance of self-faith.
Well, without self-faith, you will always be seeking help. You'll always be seeking advice. You'll always be seeking guidance. That means you'll always be dependent. It's self-faith which makes you stand up, walk straight, and progress, and also be a big pillar of strength to all around you. So self-faith is something which is real life, is living life, breathing life, experiencing life, and even becoming oxygen for all others around you. But those who do not have self-faith, or all the time on borrowed cylinders, here that cylinder finishes, another cylinder that finishes, that means you're all the time seeking, when do I go for my next cylinder of oxygen? Because you do not have self-faith. You're always seeking approvals, guidance, dependence. So those who are very, very jealous about their dependence continue to train themselves in infusing self-faith.
And what is the importance of having self-discipline in life? To be self-disciplined.
Well, it's self-discipline is directly proportionate to the desire for your destination. You want it faster, you want it real, you want it the same way as you want it, then that much of self-discipline. It's proportionate. You relax here, it goes that much far. It's like you running a marathon, or you, even in my tennis playing career, missing 3 days of fitness or practice put me back 6 days. There's no holiday in self-discipline and self-training. But you may take a day off as a part of training. But you don't take 3 days off because you now want to be something, you want to please something else. Then you are going 6 days behind. So that's self-discipline. Self-discipline cuts off a lot of distractions, which may be attractions for others, but for you that's a distraction. So if they are attractions for you, then you deviate. But if it's distraction for you, you remain focused and you reach your destination faster than anybody else does. So that's
how to actually inculcate this kind of self-discipline? How to inculcate it within yourself?
a one habit at a time. Again, sometimes if you want it, then it's self-denial too. It's self-denial of certain things you may equally want, but that desire is not as strong as what you really want to achieve. It's like every day you want to sleep more in the bed, because morning's little nip in the air is very nice. You want to continue to cuddle in the little quilt, and you want to sleep, but you want to be fit, and that's the only time to do your fitness. So the desire to sleep has to be slightly lower than the desire to be fit. So the desire to be fit rules over the desire to sleep, and you throw off the quilt and you go for a walk or a jog, and then you come back so happy that you did it. So that's that desire of the choice of desire. Which desire overrules the other? I think that's a critical decision every day, and I have it every day in my life. Since I go for a morning walk every day, first thing I do is when I get up is to go for a long walk. Every day I want to sleep that much extra. Every day I have to kick it. You see, imagine the desire to be fit remains strong every day, but it fights with that desire to sleep a little more every day. Even though it's all these years, I've rarely ever missed a walk because I wanted to sleep extra. I missed a walk because I had to take an early morning flight. But the fact is, it's a subconscious thought always, every day, which wants to rake, saying, why don't I sleep? So these thoughts, this is human mind, emotions all about. There are conflicting thoughts. So that means every day, each day, your better thought has to win over a weaker thought. It's an everyday exercise. There's no holiday in this. So if one day you had a holiday, the next day it has to see that it's not prolonged. So there is no holiday in self-discipline. There may be a Sunday for you and me, but there's no holiday, Sunday for self-discipline, for a better thought to win over a lower or a baser thought, or a weaker thought, or a thought which deviates you towards and compromises you on your discipline.
And what do you think about, ma'am, those people who actually don't think differently? Rather than, I would like to ask here is that there are certain people who really think differently, and then they tend to achieve whatever they want to achieve in their life as compared to the average man. So do they really think differently, out of the box thinking? Do they have it, and then they pursue their path?
Absolutely, absolutely. you are a product of your thinking. Each one of us is a product of our thinking. Whatever stage of our life is, we are a product because thinking translates into action. Action produces results. Results then go back to your, results actually then go back to your mind to realize whether what you thought, have you finally got that product. So it reinforces whether you've got the product for what you were thinking. Otherwise, the product is different. Your thinking then works differently to alter the product. So this is the visible product of the invisible thought. You don't like this? Then this thinking changes. So you change the route and you have another product. That means you go to another shop to buy. You don't like this cloth. You want to shop for good clothing. You go to this shop. You look at it. You don't like it. You choose it. Your thought then tells you, why don't we try another shop? And you try another shop and finally you hit the right shop and you pick up that. So every time this mind is telling you where to give. This mind is ruling your action, right? So the more creative you are, the better quality result. But finally it's the storage of this mind which is making you make better choices. But you've got to store better thoughts here too. That's why good reading, good thinking, personal reflection, good creative environment, personal time to yourself generates innovation, generates new thoughts, and the new thoughts then give you new directions.
That is, self-introspection is really important.
Time to yourself is also important, but then you have to get your mind into that wavelength too. It's weird. You see, it's interesting. It's a thought over a thought. Human mind has a thought, but there's another thought over a thought. So there are crowded thoughts. All the time human mind is also searching for which thought to supersede what. So it's a traffic of human thoughts constantly in our mind, which are competing thoughts. But there is a thought which is deciding and superseding all other thoughts. It's not my mind which is picking the thought. It's just a thought within a thought. And that's self-discipline. That's your orientation. That's your inclination. That's your inspiration. That's what your internal likes and dislikes. You reject something, you accept something. So these are all competing thoughts. There's a huge amount of traffic of thoughts going on in our minds. And there's a lot of traffic jam sometimes. When there's a depression, it's a jam. And what do? Go to sleep, relax, unwind, de-stress, It's a traffic jam of thoughts. But those of us who've got clear traffic lanes of thoughts, every traffic goes into different lanes. And there's no cross, or there's a green light, and it's huge traffic management here. Those who believe in road safety here have no accidents here. But those of us who don't believe, who do not know self-regulation, have lots of accidents here. And those accidents translate into conduct actions, and that's why they land up into Tihar jails, because these accidents have actually made them commit accidents in visible form, which border into criminality, or which border into other human emotional failures. So this being healthy and having safety highways here, this requires regular regulation. No road can do without regulation. So this is many, many roads. This is a world within you. So therefore, this is the most important part of human body. And this is only known to you. You're the only regulator of this. So everything stems from here. That means very deep awareness of what's going on within you. What do you want? What is surprising you? When are you getting angry? What are you envious at? What do you really want? What are your distractions? What is competing within you? All this is a lot of self-awareness. That means you need to give time to yourself. Each one human being needs to give time to himself or herself. Think, what do I want? Where am I going? What am I thinking? What's coming in? What's agitating me? What am I not happy with? What do I love? What do I want to be? Answer within yourself. You will start getting self-directions, and you'll start putting things into traffic, into right lanes, and some lanes you might just shut, close, road blocked, you don't want it. Or you might just delete. Say, I don't want this road. But who will delete that? Another highway will go there and delete. But somebody will have to be directed from here to say delete.
Ma'am, my next question most people say that success is outcome of hard work. Did you ever find your work to be hard to you?
It can be hard work, but it has to be hard, but it's hard work, but you got to have joy in it. Otherwise, how will you enjoy that? Success is enjoyment. So how is enjoy, if you don't enjoy work, then it's labor. Then you are just doing labor work. But if you want to, hard work is an ingredient of doing anything, because you are giving in it something extra of yourself. But you must do it with joy in it. Then it's success. Otherwise, it's one more routine work done and wages earned. Here, it's life earned. That's wages earned. There's a difference between earning your life and earning wages. Earning daily wages and living a life. There's a difference. That's living your life. That's making a life. That's creating a life. That's sharing a life. Okay? And that's enjoying life. This is earning your daily wages every day, and you're now again hungry for the tomorrow.
An average person's self-worth is basically dictated by the outsiders. How can that person actually, inculcate that self-worth within himself? If he really wants to, think about that, yes, there is something worth of mine, how can he actually inculcate in himself?
By self-reflection. Therefore, that's the key, is you've got to give your time, it's self-evaluate yourself. I've always used the word self-police, self-audit, self-reflection. All these are critical. Therefore, you don't have to, while it will be ideal to sit down and be with yourself in quietude and silence, you start realizing your self-worth. You realize who you are, what you're doing. But sometimes just being with yourself in empty thoughts, traveling, reading, half asleep, quieter moments, driving, you are thinking within yourself. And there is a lot of cross traffic going on. It keeps debating within you. I think you start realizing your own worth.
How can one become fearless of criticism?
Is by evaluating criticism. Take what is good for you, and take what will hurt you, what is not right for you. So what is not true, reject it. What is true, correct it, and thank them for it, by word or deed. So sometimes good evaluation, which could be, if you take it negatively, it's criticism. If you take it positively, it's evaluation. But if you think it's not based on facts, reject it. Don't waste time on it.
A person who has to do something big in his or her life, does he really have to, he has to become fearless of criticism? Is that really important?
No, he should. There's no harm of, let the criticism come, but let him rise above it if it's useless. But you can't be away from criticism. People will there are all kinds of people who are looking at you, and everybody does not know everything of you. So they'll interpret it in their own way, and let them. But the point is, look at it, take healthy criticism, and reject false criticism. Let it be, move on. You have a question?
Actually, I have this. There's a quote that says that no one can make you feel inferior without your consent.
That's true. That's
Do
true.
you really believe that's one thing that a person can utilize, and once he realizes
To believe in that nobody can make you inferior without your consent is almost being a Buddha. It's almost being a Buddha. That means you got to be working very hard on self-awareness and self-realization. Because it's not easy to walk away, somebody abuses you and say, I haven't accepted it. So it's all yours still. That's the Buddha. That means the little Buddhas have to be awakened and practiced within. But it's possible. See, I don't accept what you're saying, and therefore, but it's a very, very strong, it calls for a very high level of maturity. But it's not impossible, it's achievable. It can be achieved at any stage of life. But it comes with time, I'm sure. Unless somebody is born Buddha, it's achievable.
Have there been any role models in your life that you've been actually admiring?
You see, when I was growing up, I don't use the word role models. Whatever I did it for the love of my parents. Just loved my mother, I loved my father, And I did it to only continue to see a beautiful joy within them, that they were proud of whatever I could do, whatever I could achieve for them. For me, that was the world, mother and my father, and whatever I do brings them joy and a sense of self-fulfillment and a sense of sharing. But along with them, all good thinkers, good, brave people, noble souls, spiritual speakers, spiritual teachers, they were all contributing to my thinking. So I won't say they were my role model. I think an attitude was my role model. An attitude of joy, contentment, all the soft skills we talk about. I think they were all something coming from Gandhiji, something coming from Nehru, something coming from Golda Meir, something coming from Vivekananda, something coming from a novel of Ayn Rand, some couplet coming from Gita, something coming at sitting at the Gurdwara and listening to the discourse, something coming from a bhajan, something coming from my own book. These are all modeling me. They were all shaping my thoughts.
I would like to say, ma'am, people after watching you in this documentary would be really inspired.
Hope so.
But after some time, they would actually go back to their old habits. What would you like to say about those people? I mean,
Don't worry. They cannot go back to their old habits. All of it. Whenever you listen to something good, it impacts you. It gets stored here, and you never know when it awakens. So nobody will go back completely. They will go back with this storage to be used whenever that triggers. So nothing is a waste. All this is a beautiful investment, which you are making through this film, of sharing what I have to share, and to say nothing is a waste. It gets stored, it's a library here, it's a little chip here, and the beautiful part of this human mind is it expands. It's really has no boundaries. So therefore, it gets stored here, and the moment, anytime, even by mistake, it gets clicked, it'll open as a memory. It'll open as a folder, and you never will know where it gets clicked, and it gets interconnected. So nobody will be able to go back without it. It'll go back with storage. Somebody will keep it as a live folder, and somebody will put it as a memory folder. But it comes.
and what advice would you like to give to those people who, after facing setbacks, they just step back from their goal, the final goal that they want to achieve in their life? Just one or two setbacks they face and they step back.
I would say life has changed. Past is past. You can change your present in the future. You can change. Begin with small steps. Long journeys begin with small steps. Start your small steps, and over a period you'll realize how much of a long journey you've already traversed. So if you have to, we got to live our life. Birth and death is not in our hands. Who are we born with? We do not know. When do we die? We do not know. Therefore, the only choice we have is to live the period between our birth and death to the best we can, and for the largest good we can. And if you want to be empowered, then work for the largest good. Work also for others, while you empower yourself to empower others, by deed, by action, by any way you can. And that, to me, is life worth living.
And now, what about those people who actually, when they face setbacks in their life, they tend to blame the circumstances or any other kind of situation that has happened with them. Because of that, they say that, okay, we were not able to achieve something.
It's a good thing to audit that and find what was your role in it. What were your responses in a setback? And how did you respond? How could your response be qualitatively altered and better? Work on that. Because as Gandhiji said, you can't change others, you can change only yourself. So you cannot change others' behaviors, but you can change your responses to a defeat or a failure or a setback. So work on altering of those responses, and you start realizing the environment around you starts changing because you changed.
And what would you like to say about those critics who actually, claim to say that success principles are impractical?
Well, maybe they gave up too early. But success is not one time. Success is each day, each point, each day, each living, each thought. Success is not a trophy. It's not a trophy. where you just put it there. I think success is very nubile. It's joy, it's happiness. Is success a trophy? I won it, but I'm actually unhappy with what I did because I'm very unhappy that वो क्यों जीता, उसको भी क्यों मिला, मैं singles में जीती लेकिन वो doubles में क्यों जीती? Is that success? I'm not happy with this. No, I think it's the way you live, is the way you are, the way you feel. Good health to me is great success. How do we achieve anything outside if we are sick within? To me, do you know what? I think let's begin right here. Good health for that day, that you could eat well, you could digest well, you're listening well, you're interacting well, you've had a great morning, I think is success. After that, what you do with this good health is added success, if you want to say. So I think, to me, this is a successful, a happy day, because I could be a master of my own self. I could climb the staircase. Didn't need anybody's help. I'm able to communicate better. I could see things better. I could breathe well. I think this is amazing. This is the biggest gift of God, to be able to be leading a healthy day. To me, what do I do with this healthy day and this good health bestowed on me? Is, to me, I think that's the definition. Why do we take it as a destination at a full stop? There's no full stop. Therefore, as I said, what you have to do between your birth until nature decides to pull you out earlier or later, is what you do with each day of your life, and with whatever you've been gifted, wherever you've been gifted. So I think there is only one prayer saying, keep me gifted, so that I deliver gifts. Keep me gifted, so that I have enough to give, so that I don't have to seek gifts. I think one prayer, keep me gifted, so that I have enough to gift. If this is a prayer we live with, please give me gifted, because I want to share gifts. I think it's success all along. It's joy all along. It's achievement all along. It's happiness all along. To me, this is the definition of success. So success is a lifelong attitude of living, which in the end gives you good health, mind, body, and soul. Yeah. Thank you. Absolutely.
Attitude of gratitude is absolutely required to be getting something in return all the time.
100%. Any human being who lives with an attitude of gratitude can never be unhappy, because he'll start looking at glass half full. He starts counting his blessings. The person who has an attitude of gratitude cannot be happy, because he'll always see what he has and not see what he doesn't have. And then he builds on those assets. That's, to me, an attitude of gratitude. And in the attitude of gratitude, there are people and there are things, and there are happenings, and there are blessings, and the invisible hands, invisible blessings. I think attitude of gratitude would keep anybody happy all through the life. And a person who would always have friends and never be alone, because a person who's grateful will always have people around. People would love to be there. A selfish person in the end dies alone, lives alone, and all his riches cannot get him what he really wants. With an attitude of gratitude, you've lived happily, because you continue to share, continue to bless others, and remain grateful. So that person will never be ever left alone.
There's one final question. Finally, what do you want to say to all those young people who have big dreams, but the environment around them always tells them that your dreams are too big, they cannot be achieved? How does one keep moving forward in this pessimistic world?
I think the clarity within one's own self of what one wants, and setting up realistic goals, and from realistic goals to realistic self-disciplined plans, and then following those plans by one day at a time. After that, with the self-faith. If after that others tell you that it's not achievable, only you know it's achievable or not. Go by your gut feeling. If you are convinced that you've set the right destination, and you know your boundaries, and you know your plans and roadmaps, Others may think that the journeys are unachievable, but if you know the roadmap and you are organized to walk that journey, and you have faith in yourself that you will be able to put in that hard work and self-discipline, then others may say yes or no. You decide for yourself. Either you listen to yourself or you listen to others. You will have to make the choice. That's the self-choice you have to make.
Ma'am, I have
All along in one's, yeah.
The question is that some people really dream of having big things in their life, but they settle for less because somewhere subconsciously they believe that they can't simply achieve it. Why does this happen?
That means there was already a conflict between their conscious goal and a subconscious goal. And also in their self-belief, also in their self-faith. That's why all their efforts were half-baked. That's why they achieved only half. But sometimes, let me tell you, nature supports you, and sometimes nature holds you back. Sometimes you become a product of circumstances which you had no control over. Bring your goal down, make it more realistic, and make that achievable. And then don't crib over what I didn't get. Be happy in that. It's very, very important sometimes to be flexible and rescale, redestine your life, reshape it, alter it. Flexibility is important also, adaptability and flexibility. It's not to failure, but to realism. You're driving your road, somebody's hit you from behind and incapacitated you. You had a goal to achieve something, but you can't. You have to re-alter it. So that's where the re-alteration is required, looking at certain realities of life. So, but then don't say it's a failure. You have re-engineered your life to achieve now another realistic goal. That's life is all about. As I've read somewhere very rightly, life is not made of only valley, only hills, only oceans, only potholes. Life is made of only the horizon. It's sometimes you're climbing a high road and sometimes you come down a low road. You sometimes drive through a valley. Sometimes you are into the plains. Life is made of all these. All you have to do is continue to fine-tune your driving skills and adjust according to the level of the road, which is not your creation, to drive and reach your destination safely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a privilege to be talking
Yeah,
to you.
exactly.
You've been excellent.
We are just students, and like the response that when we first contacted you, you immediately replied back. I think within 1
That was
hour.
a big thing
I
actually.
think
Yeah.
I've never seen something like that.
I respect that. Because when I write to somebody, I'm also expecting a response. So if I can give it earlier, why not? So were you. And your concept was so good. But even if the concept wasn't good, I would still respond saying, I would still, because somebody's waiting. And the fact that you're writing to me, I respect that. So why shouldn't I? It's gratitude. The fact is that I'm grateful that you recognize that I'm worth it. And I can contribute something.
You're
I'm
really
grateful.
worth it, ma'am. Seriously. Yeah.
I'm very, very happy to meet you too. You had some very, very good questions.
Thank you.